Story 1. I just want to show that I don't really care about what the person says. If I actually want to talk to you, both earbuds come out. Story 2. Nothing while I am talking to you. I have one ear covered so that I can listen to things, but I also keep one ear free to hear if someone is trying to get my attention. If someone does, I turn it off so that we can talk. Story 3. Nothing annoys me more than someone talking to me while I have an earbud in and am trying to listen to something. Story 4. I always turn off the music I am listening to if I am having a conversation. I cannot focus if there is a lot of noise around. Story 5. This only happens to me when I am at work. I listen to music and podcasts while on the job. I also take calls. I mostly work alone, but sometimes people approach me to talk, or I have to make minor conversation with someone. If I leave the earbuds in, I am either on the phone with someone or I have turned the music or podcast off. I usually take the bud out, but sometimes I just leave it in. Story 6. I pause what I'm listening to for a short conversation, intending to return to it soon. Story 7. Sometimes music can serve as a conversation that allows me to engage without giving my full attention. I let the music play while splitting my focus. At times, full attention is essential. From a sensory perspective, taking in noise with both ears while trying to concentrate on a conversation can be extremely challenging. Therefore, I wear earphones to block out distractions. Sometimes, thunderstorms bring me a sense of calm. An anxious mind is not helpful to anyone, so if I can remain calm during a thunderstorm, I am less likely to let my anxiety spill over. I never wear one earphone to be rude. Story 8. Personally, I wouldn't be listening to anything else. If someone is talking to me, that is my priority, so any music will be on pause. I usually take the earbud out as an additional sign of respect. Story 9. Nothing. I pause what I'm playing, but if the earbuds are in a comfortable spot, I'm not going to take them out and try to find them again. Story 10. My friend in the bushes is telling me what to say to sound like a regular person capable of making normal conversation. Story 11. I usually have an earbud in for about half of the day, but often it's because I was listening to something earlier, finished, and forgot I had it in my ear. Story 12. A person in a van parked nearby is analyzing everything you say and relaying talking points back to me. Story 13. Pull one earbud out, and it stops playing whatever is currently on. If the conversation is going to be long, I take both out. Story 14. I have seen Primer, so I assume they recorded the conversation in a time loop and are trying to manipulate me into not resetting the timeline. Story 15. Usually, nothing happens because AirPods automatically pause my music whenever I take one out to listen to someone. Story 16. I usually listen to music at a relatively loud volume while wearing headphones to help me focus and block out conversations from my small team. This works best for me with bagpipes or bass-driven music like Bad Omens. Some team members enjoy chatting and will try to converse even when I am working and wearing my headphones. Story 17. There are two situations where I have talked to someone while keeping one earbud in, even with music playing. The first is when someone needs something while I'm doing the dishes, and the second is when someone insists I remove my earbuds because they need someone to talk to. Story 18. My husband constantly listens to an audiobook. He doesn't realize that I don't want to talk to him since he tunes me out while immersed in his book. As a result, we communicate much less these days. Story 19. Anything that keeps the overworked and stressed part of my brain occupied so the other part can get work done. Story 20. I guess it's mostly because we have so many calls in a day that picking up the call without earbuds would be a waste of time. We can't work with only one hand. If we use the earbuds, we can manage our work, answer emails, handle the call, and respond to work-related texts efficiently. Story 21. Mostly, I'm not listening to anything, to be honest. I've listened to something before, and I plan to listen to something afterward, so I can't be bothered to take both out. Story 22. Depends. If I care about you, nothing. I always pause whatever I am listening to. If I do not like you or care about you, I listen to music or audiobooks. Story 23. People who cross the street with earbuds in and never look up at traffic. Why? Do you have a death wish? Story 24. I do it at work, but only when I'm listening to a training session and ensuring I don't miss a polling question. Story 25. The mechanized hum of another world. Story 26. I need music to focus, including during socialization and conversation. It helps keep me calmer, too. I either choose what I listen to or my mind picks something at random. Story 27. Usually nothing unless I am scrolling through videos on my phone. No one has to hear about my goth-dominant mother obsession. Story 28. Nothing. Sometimes I just walk out without my AirPods case, so there's no place else to put it except in my ear. Story 29. I often use one earbud at a time to listen to audiobooks or podcasts. I do this to conserve battery life. When I am talking to someone, I press the button to turn off the earbud and focus on the conversation. Story 30. I play music at a low to medium volume to stay aware of my surroundings. Story 31. When having a conversation, I turn off the earbuds or pause what I am listening to. One time, I forgot my earbud case in the car, so I kept them in my ears because I didn't have pockets. Story 32. My boyfriend has really bad attention deficit disorder, and he does this. He will be playing a video game, listening to something on YouTube, and then when I talk to him, he responds with, huh. It drives me insane. Story 33. I don't take mine out if it is already in, and I don't plan on a long conversation, but I do pause whatever I am listening to if needed. That lets someone know I am paying attention. Story 34. I work in security and wear an earpiece all the time, so I frequently listen to conversations over the radio. Story 35. I paused what I was listening to by tapping the earbud I removed. If it's a proper conversation, I will remove both. If it's a colleague asking a question or saying hello, I will leave it in. I am not listening to anything while I am talking to you. Story 36. There are two situations when I do this. 1. I am in a video meeting but need some situational awareness. For example, yesterday I had a 3 p.m. video meeting and a 4 p.m. flight. The flight boarded about the time the video call ended, so I wanted to listen for when the gate agent started calling people to board so that I could inform the other participants in the meeting that I would need to end the call soon. I do this as little as possible, though. I am not a fan of having meetings in public, but sometimes I just cannot do anything about it. I usually use one earbud when I run. I like listening to music while running, but I also want to hear if a car is coming or if someone is trying to yell something at me as I pass by. I am sure the answer varies across the world of people who sometimes have one earbud in. Story 37. While working a stocking job, I usually listen to comedy podcasts to keep my spirits up or just play music on shuffle. Story 38. I take large over-the-ear headphones to the bar with me when I want to go out but also watch some television. Sometimes people get very angry about it. Story 39. Usually, my music is paused when I am talking to someone. I experience sensory overload easily in public, and music helps. About 95% of the time I am out of the house, I have an earbud in. The only reason I don't take it out when talking is that it is an over-the-ear Bluetooth headphone, which makes it inconvenient to remove every time I need to stop and talk. It is easier to just press pause. Story 40. At work, I often have earbuds in both ears at all times. I can turn on or off active noise canceling, and it helps me hear a bit when I turn it off. When I'm working, I'm either listening to YouTube or an audiobook, but not always. Sometimes, I'm not listening to anything and just keep them in case I want to listen to something. This also makes it less clear when I can hear the people around me. Alternatively, when I have noise canceling on, I can avoid hearing others. However, when I'm talking to someone with them in, I'm not listening to anything. Story 41. It's a pair of AirPods set to noise cancellation so I can hear what the person talking to me is saying over the sounds of the environment. Story 42. Listening for notifications. Even if you have your phone volume turned up all the way, it can sometimes be hard to hear. I don't take out my wireless earbuds for conversations unless I'm wearing my noise-canceling ones. Depending on the fit and your ear shape, you may forget they're in. Story 43. If it's an intended conversation, my earbuds are already out. If I'm in the grocery store, I'm not going out of my way to engage with fellow shoppers. I want out, hopefully, An earbud signals that I'm not interested in casual conversation. I still take it out when I interact with store staff. I'm introverted and in a hurry, but I'm not going to be rude to someone else who is busy. Story 44. My right ear doesn't work too well, so I always leave an earbud in because I can't hear anyway. So, beats me. Story 45. Guilty as charged. I routinely wear one while shopping so I can hear any text messages and calls. If I happen to see someone I know, I can have a conversation with them and ignore any incoming messages or calls until later. Story 46. The only time I ever have earbuds in around someone I know is usually in the airport at the end of a long international trip with my best friend when we are exhausted and fed up with each other. I don't understand why this has become a common occurrence among friends and couples nowadays in malls, on the street, in restaurants, and so on. It makes it appear as if you don't like each other, which is kind of sad. A few years ago, while flying somewhere, I smiled at a cute girl at the gate when suddenly, a guy who had been standing off to the side wearing wireless earbuds for the last half hour quickly came over and put his arm around her. They continued to not speak or even acknowledge each other until boarding. Story 47. When I talk to someone face to face, I pause whatever I have on. Otherwise, it's rude to both the person in front of me and the person on the call, if there is one. Usually, I have one earbud in so I can hear notifications on my phone. I'm not referring to social media updates. I mean messages from my family, colleagues, and reminders. I use my calendar heavily. Story 48. Always music. If someone starts talking to me while I have my earbud in, I take it out because I know I won't be paying attention to whatever they have to say. Story 49. Nothing. Whenever I listen to music, it automatically pauses as soon as I remove one earbud. This only happens to me at the gym, though, so I was enjoying my music before the interruption. Story 50. Classical music is enjoyable. However, my earbuds have a talk-through feature so I can hear everything happening around me. Story 51. Usually, there is nothing. Sometimes the world is too noisy, and the earbuds muffle it just a little. If it is actually playing something, it is probably music at a very low volume. Unless I am in public, then I am just trying to ignore people. Story 52. Anything and everything. Music, podcasts, audiobooks. I don't specifically put an earbud in for conversations, which would be quite a bold move. It's just whatever was playing before the person approached me to talk. Story 53. As someone who works daily with one or both, I pause anything I am listening to. I have not been diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, but let me tell you, I get sidetracked very easily if I did not. Story 54. Nothing or National Public Radio. I mostly leave my AirPod in so I can get Siri to remind me to set an alarm or send a text. Story 55. The sound of their own self-importance. I mean, you can't be bothered to give someone talking to you your full attention. It's so inconsiderate, but I shouldn't be surprised. The lack of consideration for others in society is at an all-time high. People only care about themselves. An example we have all seen. A driver in the right lane realizes they need to make a left turn. Rather than drive one block down the road and backtrack, they just throw on their blinker and hold up several lanes of traffic so we can all wait for their mistake. Story 56. Having ADHD, I find it easier to follow conversations if I have an earbud in. This is mainly because I often ask people to repeat themselves. It really helps. Story 57. Nothing, because I paused it when the conversation started, but I don't want to take the earbud out every time someone walks over to my desk. Story 58. When I used to listen to a podcast, I kept one ear open to stay aware of my environment. Since switching to a bone conduction headset, I can listen to a podcast with both ears and remain aware of my surroundings. If I'm in a conversation, I can switch my attention to the person I'm speaking with or pause the podcast to focus fully on them. I have had complete conversations while the podcast continued to play in the background and then rewound it after the conversation ended. Story 59. Everyone where I work has them in. I usually listen to one at a time, typically a podcast about murder, the occult, or a cult. Most of the time, it's Last Podcast on the Left, My Favorite Murder, or Red-Handed. Story 60. I am a supervisor at my shop. I intentionally wear them to try to deter my employees from the inevitable questions about things they already know how to do. Story 61. People with earbuds in are expressing their desire to listen to others. Please be considerate. Story 62. People who talk to me while I am wearing noise-canceling over-the-ear headphones and typing on my computer. Do you think I know you are there? Story 63. Either a playlist, one specific song on repeat, or my favorite part of a song that I've cut to listen to on its own, possibly with altered pitch. I will still engage in conversation with whoever is talking to me. I just don't feel like turning off the music. Story 64. With AirPods, your music or podcast will pause if you take one bud out. If people approach me to talk while I am listening, I will take one out to talk to them rather than fumble for my phone to pause it myself. Story 65. I usually have one earbud in so I can hear my surroundings, such as when someone is calling my name or overhearing conversations. If I'm talking with someone, I take it out because, for some reason, I can't hear them properly even if they're speaking directly to my open ear. My hearing on its own is fine. This typically happened when people wanted to talk to me while I was listening to either a true crime podcast or my dad wrote a porno at my old job. Story 66. When you walk onto a job site and hear, "Hey Siri, pause," before you reach the person you are about to talk to. Story 67. My friend in the bushes is guiding me on what to say to seem like a regular person capable of making normal conversation. Story 68. Nothing. I paused my podcast and have one earbud in because I don't want to put them in my pocket. My earbuds are connected to each other. Story 69. Nothing, actually. I keep it in because I work at a coffee shop, and we are required to be ready for drive-through headset calls. To be honest, I kind of forgot it was there while on my break. Story 70. Usually it's a podcast, and then someone decides they need to have a whole conversation with me while I'm holding my laptop and coffee, so I can't even put it down if I wanted to. This happens at work on a weekly basis. I'm not a people person, and I try to keep to myself at work because I'm very direct, and people take that as rude. Yes, I work in accounting. How did you know? Story 71. I listen to podcasts while I work. If you come up to me, I will pause it if it's quick. I will take it out if it's important. Story 72. Right now, all the living and the dead. I had a conversation with my sister while I was listening to The Art of Embalming. Story 73. Nothing. It is just there in case a phone call comes in, allowing me to answer it without needing my phone in my hand. Story 74. Seriously, why do people always keep one earbud in while talking to someone? I get that they might be listening to something, but if you're talking to someone, shouldn't you be paying more attention to the conversation? Story 75. Nothing, it's paused. We just don't have wires anymore to hang the headphones around our neck for the pause, so they stay in place and I don't lose them. Story 76. My husband does this all the time and I think it is very rude. His response is that he can still hear me. I don't care that he can hear me. It is still rude. Story 77. The earbuds are connected to my work computer, and I'm listening to music. More importantly, I'm listening for the notification sounds from Microsoft Teams and email. It is quite annoying for an entire office to be constantly inundated with the notification sounds from everyone. So I'm doing my part to spare my coworkers and ensure that I hear only my notifications. Story 78. True crime podcasts are always engaging. I know it's probably rude, but I got hooked during my commute and now I can't stop. Sometimes, I have to stop myself from blurting out murder facts during casual conversations. Story 79. If I am at work, I usually listen to a podcast or music, maybe an audiobook. I pause it if I am talking to someone. The only time I do not pause it is when I am listening to lo-fi music, which is soft enough to allow for conversation. Everyone at work always has an earbud in or headphones on. Story 80. What I'm trying to listen to is music or a podcast, but what I am hearing is the endless chatter of a person who does not respect my desire to enjoy music or a podcast. Story 81. Sometimes I was listening before the conversation, and sometimes I was not. I don't need both ears to listen to you. Story 82. I'm no longer listening, but I won't take both off if it's a short conversation or if I want the conversation to be brief. such as when a cashier in a store or a coworker asks something. Story 83. About half of my work playlist consists of the greatest movie soundtracks ever composed, along with some video game soundtracks. The rest mainly includes classic rock and pop songs, along with some tracks by Enya and Celine Dion and a few songs by Eminem. I also have other playlists featuring hour-long nature sounds, orchestral music, and instrumental tracks. In total, I have around 2,000 songs and soundtracks that I have downloaded over the years, so it could be anything. Your importance increases if I take both of them out to listen to you, as I usually keep both in when talking to anyone. Story 84. Either it is paused or at a very low volume. I enjoy the background noise, but I also want to be aware. Story 85. Sometimes a Twitch streamer, sometimes a seminar, sometimes a podcast, or sometimes nothing just to block the excess noise. Some days you need to do that. Story 86. I pause the music when someone needs to talk to me. It's hard to hear a conversation with death metal in one ear at full volume. Story 87. Music at a low volume helps me focus better due to my anxiety and attention deficit disorder. Additionally, my earbuds have a setting called Be Aware mode that amplifies surrounding sounds, which also improves my ability to participate in conversations despite my hearing difficulties. Story 88. Podcasts are similar to being at a party and talking with a group of people. When someone taps you on the shoulder to engage in conversation, you can continue listening to the group while focusing on the other person. Depending on the situation, you might choose to switch your attention or pause the conversation. Story 89. Between Stuck Inside, Headspace, an Amori song, or Never Be Alone, I just like Five Nights at Freddy's and Amori songs. If I can listen to them and still pay attention to you, then you have no reason to be upset. Story 90. I have a friend who has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. He listens to an audiobook while watching a movie and cooking dinner, or he listens to a movie while playing a video game. I do not understand it. I need to focus on one thing at a time. Story 91. My screen reader helps me. I am blind, so I usually listen to a robotic voice that tells me the time or reads me something from the internet. Story 92. If you cannot function around your family, at work, while running errands, or in any situation without having music playing, you might be on the spectrum. Story 93. I can listen to baseball with half attention and carry on a normal conversation while it's playing in one ear. No other variations work for me like music or podcasts, but I can listen to a steady audio feed of a game and still talk through it. It's especially easy if there are no commercials. Story 94. Most of the time, I have one earbud in while at work, so I can hear if anyone calls for me. Whenever someone approaches, I pause what I'm listening to. I don't listen to music. I listen to podcasts. They help me relax and make the day go by quickly. Story 95. My friend does this constantly. He doesn't listen to anything. He always wears them for ear protection at the shop when using an angle grinder and similar tools. Story 96. Nothing. I paused what I was listening to in order to have a conversation, usually hoping to get back to it quickly. Story 97. Seu Jorge, pessoal particular. When drinking a beer with friends and no one bothers to actively put on music, there is just some background music playing. I really need energy and a constant vibe of music in a setting like that. That is why I prefer to host a relaxed gathering or a party. Story 98. I sometimes keep my AirPods on because I can hear better while wearing them, thanks to the pass-through mode. I occasionally struggle to hear people talking when there is ambient noise. Story 99. Before they interrupted me with a conversation that could have been an email, I was listening to my book. Story 100. Nothing. I pause what I am listening to. However, I always have an earbud in when I am out in case I receive a phone call. It just seems easier, and I can hear them better. Story 101. It depends on whom I'm talking to. If it's a friend, then I listen to my music at a low volume or pause it. If it's a teacher, I take my headphones out. However, if it's a random stranger or someone I don't particularly like, I keep my music on, mostly listening to Epic, the musical right now. Story 102. The only time I do this is when I'm listening to a meeting but need to speak to someone in person. Story 103, music. I get overstimulated easily, and it's easier for me to be in a large group if one ear has something to drown out some of the noise. I'm still fully present, listening, and participating. I started using an earbud at work in 2020 and realized how much easier it was to do things and interact. Story 104. I am listening to a recording of what I said during my last time jump to avoid causing a rip in space-time. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.